How much of a difference does the right shaft make to the performance of your driver? That was the question we wanted to answer in this video. So I have three different shafts, all designed to do three different things. There's the Mitsubishi Tensei Orange, which is a 66 gram regular flex shaft designed to be mid-launching and mid-spinning. I have the Fuji Atmos shaft here. This is a stiff flex 66 gram shaft designed to be mid to low launching and low spinning. And then I have the Project X Hazardous Smoke. This is 70 grams, so a little bit heavier, and it's an extra stiff shaft designed to be low launching and low spinning. Question is, how much of a difference does it actually make? Now I'm going to head over now to the Foresight Sports headquarters in Guildford to give each of these shafts a really good test. Guys, if you're new to the Golf Monthly channel, please do hit the subscribe button up here to make sure you don't miss any of our videos. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, but let's head over and hit each of these and see what the data shows. One thing I didn't mention first up was which head I'm going to use to test these different shafts out. I'm going to use the TaylorMade M6, and I'm going to have it in a very simple standard 9-degree setup, so nothing funky about it. This is a sort of off-the-rack standard setup that you would be able to get. I'm also going to use Strixon Z-Star XV golf balls. Now I'm fully warmed up. I've been testing a few other products already today, so I'm fully warmed up, ready to go, and I'm going to start with the regular shafted Mitsubishi Tensei. Right, so I did my testing a couple of days ago here at the Foresight Sports headquarters here in Guildford. This is where we do all of our testing, and the results of the test were really interesting. In fact, so much so that I've actually enlisted Mike's help to give a second opinion. So Mike's currently going through exactly the same process as I did. What shaft are you on?
Fuji Atmos.
Currently hitting the Atmos. What I can tell so far, the results are going to be really quite revealing. So keep watching. Mike's going to go through his hitting, and then once he's done that, we'll take a look at the results, and we should be able to come back to you with some really interesting feedback. Okay, so the testing is all done. Let's take a look at the data without further ado. So I'm going to start with my own data, beginning with that Mitsubishi Tensei shaft, the regular flex 66 gram shaft that I wouldn't have thought was right for my game, but take a look at the results. So head speed of 113.8, ball speed of 161.9, launching at 15.5 and spinning at 20.36. That was delivering me a peak height of 42 yards, which is a fraction higher than I would usually expect from my driver, which is something that you would expect from using a regular shaft. But look at that total carry distance of 292 yards. Now there's a lot more to pick through in that, but I'm going to keep going. So then I moved on to the Atmos, head speed of 114.4, ball speed of 162.4, launching at 14.6. Spinning at 21.02 with a peak height of 40 yards, delivering a total carry distance of 290. So 290 yards carry, but with a little bit less height through the air, more roll on the deck, probably evening out, I'd say. So between the Tensei and the Atmos, they're probably going about the same distance. And then onto the Hazardous, which is the slightly heavier 70 gram shaft, stiffer. It's an X flex shaft that should be lower launching and lower spinning. Head speed of 114.4, ball speed of 162.6, launching a little bit lower as you'd think it should, but only a small amount at 14.4, spinning a little bit less at 19.56, but not by a lot, and carrying a little bit further at 294 with a peak height of 38. So definitely flying a little bit more of a sort of flatter, stronger flight that was delivering more distance through the air and definitely more distance on the ground. Now, as you can see from those numbers, and as I say, there is more to pick out from this, which I will come back to, but the differences between the performance of all three shafts shocked me, and they shocked me because of how similar they were. Anyway, that's why I asked Mike Harris to join me at Foresight Sports and for him to run through exactly the same process. Because his club head speed is a little bit less than mine. So his club head speed would be around about that 102 mile an hour mark. So let's take a look at his results, starting with that Tensei shaft. So head speed of 103.4, ball speed of 141.4, launching at 13.7, spinning at 34.05. With a peak height of 34, Mike was carrying that Tensei shaft 225 yards. He then hit the Atmos. And with less of a club head speed at 102.6, he was delivering ball speed of 143.6, launching a little higher at 14.9, not what you would expect, spinning a little bit less at 31.40, peak height of 38, and increased his carry distance 10 yards at 234. And finally, onto the hazardous shaft, and this was the interesting one. So Mike's club head speed actually dropped a little bit to 101.5 here. The ball speed was 143.8. It was launching lower at 13.1. So a sort of, I guess you would describe that as a fairly significant difference at 13.1 degrees, and spinning a bit less at 28.89. He was delivering a peak height of 32 yards and a total carry distance of 237. So there you have it, that's the data, and I'm going to leave it all on the screen for you to take a look at now, and you can kind of digest it a little bit more. But I do want to look at sort of what this data really means, and I think the first thing to say is that for both of us, both for Mike and myself, both of us swing the club in completely different ways. We deliver the club to the golf ball in very different ways indeed, and for both of us, the difference in terms of how the three shafts were performing was very small indeed. So for me, just 150 RPMs between the lowest spinning and the highest spinning shaft. That's nothing. Just about 1 degree of launch difference between the highest launching and the lowest launching. Again, that's hardly anything at all. For Mike, it was a similar story. 500 RPMs between his highest and his lowest spinning, and 2 degrees of launch between his highest launching and lowest launching, which goes to show that actually with these shafts, the performance that you're going to experience from what the testing that we have done is going to be very similar across the board, and it shows you that the work that you do with the shafts is a bit about fine-tuning. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is accuracy, and I'm going to show you Mike's down the range data, so this will give you an idea for his dispersion. And this was very interesting because I was always of the opinion that the softer the shaft, the easier the face was to square through impact. So something with a softer shaft, you would hit more left than something with a stiffer shaft. That was the thinking anyway, but that's not the case from the data. That's not the case from the testing that we did here. Mike hit the Hazardous Smoke, which is the X-Flex 70-gram shaft, which you would have thought was completely the wrong shaft for Mike, given his club head speed of around about 102 miles an hour. He was hitting that consistently slightly left of that centre line. He was the most accurate with this shaft. It seemed like shot after shot, he was in control of the club, he was in control of the ball flight, and it was delivering him really good results, slightly left of that centre line, not what you would be expecting. Now this is, don't forget, the lowest spinning shaft, and Mike is quite a high spin player. And I think what this shows is that whenever you go for a fitting, don't go with any preconceptions about the sort of shaft that you might end up using at the end of it, because you might be someone with a club head speed like Mike of 102 miles an hour, but who spins it quite a lot, who needs that low spin performance. And it seemed like the Hazardous, which you might think is for the faster swinger, actually was the best performing shaft in Mike's hands. For me, in my testing, again, it was similar. This Mitsubishi Tensei orange shaft did not go left. It went no further left than any of the other shafts I hit. And if I was to choose one of those three shafts for my own game based on accuracy, and perhaps this is where the data that you're looking at might not quite tell the whole story, I would pick the Atmos. And the reason I would pick the Atmos is that I removed from the data anything that was a sort of wild hit, anything that missed the fairway, or that centre line by about 35 or 40 yards, I think it was. So we left everything else in. We took out the really big miss hits, and I was able to hit this Atmos shaft down the middle relatively easily. I took fewer shots out with this Atmos shaft, so it seemed to be the most accurate for me. Now, often we get comments on our YouTube channel from people saying that the shaft is the engine of the golf club, and that if you get the shaft right, the performance of the golf club is bound to come in line. And that is both correct and incorrect from the testing that we've done in this test. It's correct to say that all the shafts that we have tested here, they're all premium shafts. These all come in with a recommended retail price of in excess of $250. So they're all premium shafts, they're all expensive components, they're all top quality components. So you would expect the performance to be pretty good. But these are all also stock options within that tailor-made family of drivers for 2019 in the M5 or the M6. You can find each of these shafts as a stock offering. So really the work that you need to do to find the right driver for your game relies, in my opinion, on getting the head right. Yes, you'll need to find, if you go for a fitting, running through the process of fine-tuning the shaft to get exactly the right shaft for your game is part of it. But in my experience, changes in loft and lie and the weight setup of the club head actually make more of a difference to the performance than getting the shaft absolutely spot on, which is not something I was expecting to say at the beginning of this video. I thought that the shaft was going to make a huge difference to performance, but that's not the case. As I say, I think that's because the quality of components is really good. And the final thing I'm going to say is about the feel. So I was expecting to notice a huge difference in terms of the feel between each of these shafts, partly because when I've tested regular shafted golf clubs in the past, and I haven't tested any regular shafted golf clubs for a while, I've always felt like I've not really had control of the club head through the swing. I've always felt like I'm sort of slightly out of control. That was not the case in this test. I sort of, if it had been a blind test, if I hadn't known what I was hitting, I would have struggled. I genuinely would have struggled to tell the difference between all three of them. Yes, the ball flights would have backed up what I would have expected to see, i.e. that the regular shaft was flying higher than the stiff and the stiff was flying higher than the extra stiff. But apart from that, I'm not sure I'd have noticed the difference between them. And those differences in terms of ball flight, they were not huge. So there you have it, guys. There's an awful lot to unpick there. I hope I haven't caused sort of any added confusion, but this was a test that we wanted to do to see how much of a difference the shaft makes to the performance of the driver, and it has thrown up some really interesting results. Please do leave some comments below. We'd really be interested to hear your thoughts. What shaft do you play in your driver, and why do you play that shaft? And would you be willing to try out something different? Do you think it makes a huge difference? We'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. But for now, from West Hill, it's goodbye.